Hi everyone, my name is Jeremy and today I'll be showing you how to integrate Synthesia with third-party business applications using Zapier. In this example, we'll be sending information to Synthesia that will come from HighGear and ChatGPT. After this, Synthesia will automatically generate a video using that information. I'll play the video that was created in the example and then I'll show you how everything was set up.
Hello. Thanks for tuning into the monthly business update for February 2024. Let's get into what has been accomplished over the past month. Last month, we were able to onboard 6 new clients, representing a 14% monthly increase in revenue. We've also onboarded 2 new employees. If you see them in the hallway, be sure to give them a warm welcome. We would like to announce that the latest version of our software will be available next Monday. Make sure you tell everyone about the news. As is customary, I wanted to share a quote that really inspired me. This one is from Elon Musk. Failure is an option here. If you're not failing, you're not innovating enough. Thanks for tuning into this month's company update video.
Now that you've seen the final video, we'll start the tutorial off in the HighGear Forms Designer. If we look at this form, each of the fields on it represent data that will be passed to Synthesia and ChatGPT. For example, the new clients and new employees fields are used to populate the numbers in the section of the video where company metrics are being listed. The voice script for the AI avatar in the video will also reference this information. If we go down to the bottom of the form, the field titled Inspiring Quote From will intake the name of an individual and later will be used in Zapier to ask ChatGPT for an inspiring quote from them. Moving on, we're in the HighGear Workflow Designer where we've created a basic process that will trigger Zapier. In the entry node to the workflow, we're indicating the form that needs to be submitted in order to trigger the workflow. And if we go to the web request node right here, we're defining the HighGear account that will be sending data to Zapier. In this case, we have a web service user specifically for Zapier. Next, we've come into Synthesia and are in the video template editor. I'm not going to go into detail on how to create a video template, but I'm rather going to show how to create dynamic fields that information from HighGear and ChatGPT can be inserted into. If we were to click into the script and type a string of text that is surrounded by double brackets, you can see that the format of the text changes, and that indicates that a dynamic field has been created. If we look into the scene of the video, you can also see that we've inserted text that is surrounded by double brackets as well, so these fields can also be dynamically populated. Since we've covered how HighGear and Synthesia are set up to work in this example, creating the Zap will be the final step needed in order to get this automation working. Looking into the first step of the Zap, we'll be triggering the process when a task enters a web request node. We've defined the account that will be sending information from HighGear to Zapier, as well as the specific workflow and node that will trigger the Zap. In this case, the workflow that I showed earlier in the video is titled Monthly Business Update Video, and the node is titled Trigger Zapier. Moving on to step 2 of the Zap, we'll be using the HighGear Get Task action. This retrieves all of the field values that were submitted in the HighGear form. You'll notice that Zapier requires a specific HighGear task ID to reference. That field should be filled with the task ID dynamic content that was pulled from the first step of the Zap. Looking at step 3 of our Zap, we'll be using a ChatGPT conversation action. When setting up this step, you'll have to define the ChatGPT account that will be used to pass data to Zapier. After you've done that, if we look at the action being performed, we're asking ChatGPT to generate an inspirational quote and are inserting the dynamic content titled Inspiring Quote From that was pulled from the second step in the Zap. You'll also notice that we set parameters for the length of the quote within the message. After this, step 4 of the Zap will use the text in formatter by Zapier. When looking at the action for this step, we're setting the value of the transform field to replace. This will replace a defined string of text with another value if it is found in the input. You can see that in the input field, we're inserting the quote that was generated by ChatGPT in its response during step 3 of the Zap. In the find field, we've added a quote symbol and kept the replace field empty. This means that Zapier will search the response that was generated by ChatGPT, find any quote symbols, and remove them completely from the response. This step is important for when we insert the quote into Synthesia, where we won't want the AI avatar to read the quote symbols. We're now on the final step of the Zap, where we will be using the request new video from template Synthesia action. Just as we did with HighGear and ChatGPT, Zapier requires that you define a specific Synthesia account to run the integration with. If you need to generate an API key for your Synthesia account, navigate to the top right corner of your window and select your profile icon. After that, select Integrations. This will open a window that gives the option to generate an API key and see all other existing keys for the account. Moving on to the action of this step, we'll be defining the title and description of the video, as well as which video template will be used, and the data that should fill the dynamic fields we created in the template. You can see in the title field, we're using dynamic content that was pulled from HighGear to name the video Monthly Business Update, followed by the month and year of the update. In the template ID field, we'll be pasting the template ID of the Synthesia template used for the video. To get the ID, log into Synthesia and navigate to your template library. Click into the top right corner of the template you wish to use and select Copy ID. In the last part of this step, we'll be defining the information that we want presented in the dynamic fields we've created on the Synthesia video template. To do this, you will have to type the names of each dynamic field from the Synthesia template exactly how they appear on Synthesia. Once you've done that, you will be able to manually enter or use dynamic content from Zapier to populate those fields. In this example, we're using various outputs from HighGear as well as the output from the text in formatter step of the Zap to fill in the quote field. After you've filled in all the fields, your Zap will be ready to run. And that brings us to the end of this tutorial. I hope it was able to help. If you're looking for more information on Synthesia, HighGear, ChatGPT, or Zapier, links to resources on them can be found in the description. Thank you.